breaking news has sent shockwaves through the corridors of the entertainment industry, as Sean "Diddy" Combs, once the untouchable titan of hip-hop, faces yet another crushing defeat in his desperate bid for freedom. Just hours before Thanksgiving, Judge Subramaniam delivered a devastating verdict that would ensure Combs' continued residence behind the austere walls of the Metropolitan Detention Center, marking an unprecedented third denial of bail for the music mogul. Welcome to True Crime Stories Archive, your gateway to the chilling world of real-life horror. Here, we delve into the darkest corners of humanity, unearthing terrifying stories of true crime that will leave you sleeping with the lights on. If you're fascinated by stories that expose the hidden shadows behind fame and power, hit that subscribe button and join our growing community of true crime enthusiasts. The timing of this decision, announced on Thanksgiving Eve, carries a particularly poignant weight. While millions of Americans prepare to gather with their loved ones, Combs finds himself isolated from his family, confined to a cell that stands in stark contrast to the luxurious lifestyle he once commanded. This latest development emerges following an intense hearing where both prosecution and defense teams presented their arguments in a high-stakes legal battle that has captured national attention. The gravity of the charges against Combs cannot be understated. The federal indictment reads like a dark Hollywood script, alleging a complex web of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. These accusations span decades, painting a disturbing portrait of a man who allegedly used his vast business empire as a front for systematic exploitation and abuse. According to court documents meticulously reviewed by Judge Subramaniam, the prosecution has presented what they describe as clear and convincing evidence that no combination of conditions could reasonably ensure the safety of the community if Combs were to be released. This determination came after an exhaustive evaluation of four crucial factors that would ultimately seal Combs' fate. Let's delve deeper into Judge Subramaniam's meticulous analysis of the evidence that continues to keep Sean "Diddy" Combs behind bars. The prosecution's case, built on decades of alleged criminal activity, unveils a disturbing pattern of behavior that extends far beyond the glittering facade of music industry success. The judge's examination began with a thorough review of the most serious allegations detailed in the indictment. According to court documents, Combs didn't merely operate a successful music empire, but rather orchestrated a complex criminal enterprise that systematically exploited vulnerable individuals for decades. The prosecution alleges that Combs used his employees, resources, and considerable influence to fulfill his sexual desires while simultaneously working to protect his reputation through any means necessary. The scope of the alleged criminal activities is breathtaking in its breadth. The enterprise supposedly engaged in a range of criminal behaviors including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Each of these allegations carries significant weight in the judge's decision to deny bail. Of particular significance in the prosecution's arsenal is direct evidence of Combs' alleged violent tendencies. The cornerstone of this evidence is a damning 2016 videotape, published by CNN, showing what appears to be Combs, clad only in a towel, physically assaulting his former girlfriend Cassandra Ventura in a hotel hallway. This video evidence has become a crucial element in establishing what prosecutors describe as a pattern of violence and control. The aftermath of this incident is documented through a series of text messages between Combs and the victim, identified as Victim 1 in court documents. These messages paint a disturbing picture of the alleged abuse, with the victim describing injuries including a black eye and swollen lip, along with extensive bruising. The existence of these messages adds substantial weight to the prosecution's argument about Combs' potential danger to the community. Beyond the physical violence, the judge expressed serious concerns about potential witness tampering. Evidence presented to the court revealed that Combs had initiated unexplained communications with a witness who had been subpoenaed to testify before a grand jury in June 2024. More troublingly, these communications continued even after the witness's testimony in July 2024, raising red flags about potential obstruction of justice. Adding to the prosecution's concerns, Combs' conduct while in detention at the Metropolitan Detention Center has raised serious red flags about his ability to comply with institutional rules and regulations. The court has uncovered evidence suggesting that Combs repeatedly violated Bureau of Prisons regulations during his pretrial detention, employing various methods to obscure his communications with outside parties. These violations paint a troubling picture of an individual who appears unwilling to submit to authority even under the strictest supervision. The prosecution detailed how Combs allegedly exploited other inmates' pack numbers to make unauthorized calls, utilized a private messaging service to maintain outside contact, and engaged in three-way phone calls, all in direct violation of facility rules. What makes these infractions particularly damning is their timing. These violations occurred while Combs was actively seeking bail, during a period when he knew his behavior was under intense scrutiny. The prosecution argued that if Combs was willing to flout rules while under the watchful eye of prison authorities, there was little reason to believe he would comply with bail conditions if released. While Judge Subramaniam made a point of noting that the court couldn't definitively determine whether the content of these communications was improper, the very act of circumventing monitoring systems raised serious concerns. The judge emphasized that Combs' willingness to sidestep Bureau of Prisons rules, particularly in ways that would make his communications more difficult to monitor, strongly suggested that no reasonable conditions of release could adequately ensure compliance. The prosecution's concerns extended beyond mere rule violations. They presented evidence suggesting that Combs had been orchestrating a coordinated social media campaign from behind bars, potentially attempting to influence public opinion and, more worryingly, the potential jury pool. This campaign, allegedly centered around his birthday, raised additional red flags about his willingness to manipulate the judicial process from within the confines of detention. The court also expressed significant doubts about the viability of private security as a solution for monitoring Combs if released. The proposed bail package included provisions for private security guards, but Judge Subramaniam questioned the wisdom of placing trust in individuals who would ultimately be in Combs' employ. The prosecution argued persuasively that any private security detail could potentially be susceptible to manipulation by someone with Combs' resources and influence. The defense team's efforts to secure Combs' release revealed an extensive and carefully crafted bail package that would have been among the most restrictive ever proposed in a federal case. Their proposal included a staggering $50 million bond, complete home confinement, elimination of phone and internet access, and round-the-clock private security monitoring. The comprehensiveness of these proposed restrictions demonstrated the lengths to which Combs' legal team was willing to go to secure his release. A particularly contentious moment in the proceedings arose when the defense addressed the location of potential home confinement. Initially, they proposed Miami as a suitable location, complete with dock access but notably without boat accessibility. However, Judge Subramaniam swiftly dismissed this suggestion, prompting the defense to present an alternative, a 3-bedroom apartment on Manhattan's Upper East Side. The Upper East Side proposal included detailed security arrangements, with 2 guards stationed within the apartment and additional security personnel positioned downstairs. The defense emphasized that under these conditions, Combs would have no access to phones or internet, except for essential communications with his legal team. They further promised that Combs would maintain strict separation from any potential witnesses in the case. However, the defense's credibility suffered a significant blow during discussions about privileged materials in Combs' jail cell. A discrepancy emerged regarding legal pads that were supposedly marked with the word legal to indicate attorney-client privilege. When confronted with photographic evidence showing no such markings, defense attorney Mark Agnifilo was forced to concede that not all pads were marked as claimed, creating a moment of uncertainty that appeared to damage their standing with the court. The defense team attempted to contextualize the infamous 2016 video evidence, suggesting that it needed to be viewed within the broader scope of what they characterized as a consensual, long-term, loving yet fraught relationship. They argued that the physical altercation captured on video was part of a complex dynamic where regrettable physical conduct occurred on both sides, rather than evidence of systematic abuse. In addressing the allegations of improper communications while in detention, defense attorney Alexander Shapiro invoked First Amendment protections, arguing that Combs had a constitutional right to defend himself against what they described as a barrage of negative media coverage. When questioned about why these communications couldn't be handled through proper legal channels, Shapiro's response that lawyers aren't really equipped for such tasks seemed to fall flat with the court. The prosecution's rebuttal focused heavily on distinguishing Combs' case from other high-profile defendants who had successfully secured pretrial release. Of particular interest was the comparison to the recent case of former Abercrombie and Fitch CEO Mike Jeffries, who faced similar sex trafficking charges yet was granted release on a $10 million bail bond. Prosecutor Slavic methodically dismantled the defense's attempts to draw parallels between the two cases. While both involved allegations of sex trafficking, she emphasized crucial distinctions that set Combs' case apart. Unlike Jeffries, Combs faced additional charges of violent acts separate from the sex trafficking allegations. The presence of firearms in Combs' case added another layer of severity absent from the Jeffries matter. Furthermore, the prosecution highlighted that Jeffries' alleged obstruction attempts had ended in 2015, while Combs was accused of ongoing interference with the judicial process. The age difference between the defendants also played a significant role. Jeffries, at 80 years old, presented a markedly different risk profile than the 55-year-old Combs. These distinctions, the prosecution argued, made the Jeffries case an inappropriate comparison for determining Combs' bail status. The prosecution's concerns about witness tampering took center stage as they revealed troubling details about Combs' attempts to contact a witness who had testified before a grand jury. This witness, allegedly a participant in multiple freak-off incidents, had been contacted by Combs despite explicit warnings from his legal team against such communications. The term freak-offs emerged as a disturbing element of the case, referring to alleged forced sexual encounters involving male sex workers. Adding weight to their arguments, prosecutors detailed how Combs had allegedly ignored his lawyer's advice regarding the social media birthday campaign, demonstrating a pattern of disregarding legal counsel when it suited his purposes. This behavior, they argued, indicated that no amount of supervision or restrictions could guarantee compliance with bail conditions. The prosecution also addressed the defense's First Amendment arguments regarding social media communications, arguing that the issue wasn't about Combs' right to defend himself publicly, but rather his demonstrated inability to follow basic rules and regulations. They emphasized that his pattern of circumventing prison communication protocols suggested a deeper issue with authority and compliance. Judge Subramaniam's evaluation included crucial input from pretrial services, the office responsible for monitoring federal criminal defendants and ensuring their court appearances. In a significant development, the pretrial services representative aligned with the prosecution's position, stating that the proposed bail conditions were insufficient to ensure community safety, despite acknowledging the unique nature of using private security guards in this case. The judge's detailed analysis focused particularly on the discrepancy regarding privileged materials in Combs' jail cell. During an emergency hearing about photographs taken of materials in Combs' detention unit, defense counsel had claimed all legal pads were clearly marked with legal. However, when photographs from the sweep showed no such labels, this led to a critical moment where defense counsel had to admit they weren't certain about the timing of when these markings were added. This incident appeared to influence the judge's assessment of the defense's credibility and their ability to ensure compliance with bail conditions. Judge Subramaniam specifically noted that this misrepresentation at the hearing, where Combs was present, factored into whether the court could trust that any imposed conditions would be followed. The judge was particularly thorough in examining Combs' communications from the Metropolitan Detention Center. While not making a specific determination about the content of these communications, the judge emphasized that Combs' willingness to circumvent Bureau of Prisons rules during his detention period was troubling, especially given that this occurred while he was actively seeking bail and aware of concerns about witness tampering and obstruction. The question of home confinement location also received careful scrutiny. When the defense proposed a Miami location, the judge quickly dismissed this option and requested New York alternatives, leading to the suggestion of an Upper East Side apartment with specific security arrangements. In reaching the final decision, Judge Subramaniam methodically outlined why the government had successfully proven, through clear and convincing evidence, that no combination of conditions could reasonably guarantee the safety of the community. The ruling emphasized several key factors that ultimately led to this third denial of bail. The court specifically addressed the defense's arguments about Combs' First Amendment rights regarding social media activity. While the defense maintained he should be able to defend himself against negative media coverage, the prosecution successfully argued that the issue wasn't about free speech but rather about Combs' pattern of circumventing established rules and regulations. Adding further weight to the denial was evidence of unauthorized communications at the Metropolitan Detention Center. Despite being under heightened scrutiny during his bail application process, Combs allegedly persisted in making unauthorized three-way calls, using other inmates' phone access codes, and employing third-party messaging services. The prosecution's evidence package included communications involving a witness who had testified before a grand jury in June 2024, with concerning contact continuing even after the July 25, 2024 testimony. The timing of these communications proved particularly damaging to Combs' bail request. The court took special note of the extensive text message evidence from 2016, documenting communications between Combs and a victim describing injuries including a black eye, fat lip, and substantial bruising. This evidence, combined with the CNN-published video footage, presented a compelling picture of the potential risks. The defense team's final efforts included submitting a detailed letter to the court by Monday's noon deadline, specifically addressing what Combs could or could not say while in custody. Their argument drew parallels to the United States versus Donald Trump case regarding a defendant's rights to criticize the prosecution and criminal trial process. The defense team, through attorney Alexander Shapiro, presented multiple court cases supporting their position that Combs' communications did not fall into categories previously considered prejudicial by courts. They emphasized that his communications didn't attempt to discredit testimony, target known witnesses, or publish court-ordered discovery materials. A key element of their argument centered on Combs' right to influence public opinion in response to what they characterized as a widespread campaign against his reputation by the press, civil plaintiffs, and the government. However, this argument failed to sway the court's concerns about his pattern of rule violations and potential witness tampering. With this third bail denial, Combs' remaining legal option appears to be an appeal to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. His legal team had previously initiated this process but paused it to allow Judge Subramaniam to consider their arguments. Now, with this latest denial, the appellate path becomes their primary recourse. The prosecution's Monday response letter was equally decisive, emphasizing from its very first page that Combs' history of obstructive conduct was inseparable from his alleged pattern of violence. They maintained that both elements needed to be considered together under the Bail Reform Act, arguing that this holistic view clearly showed no way to overcome the presumption of detention. The defense's proposed bail package of $50 million bond, which would have been among the most substantial in federal court history, ultimately proved insufficient to overcome the court's concerns. The package included provisions for complete home confinement, no phone or internet access except for legal communications, and round-the-clock private security monitoring. The court's skepticism about private security arrangements became particularly evident when examining the proposed living arrangements. When the defense suggested a Miami location with dock access, the judge immediately dismissed this option. The alternative proposal of a 3-bedroom Upper East Side apartment in New York, complete with 2 in-house security guards and additional personnel stationed downstairs, also failed to convince the court of its adequacy. Judge Subramaniam expressed specific doubts about placing trust in private security personnel who would ultimately be in Combs' employment. This concern directly addressed the prosecution's argument that any private security detail might be susceptible to manipulation given Combs' considerable resources and influence. The prosecution successfully argued that Combs' behavior while in the Metropolitan Detention Center demonstrated a pattern of rule violations, even during a period when he knew he was under intense scrutiny. His use of other inmates' pack numbers for calls, employment of private messaging services, and engagement in 3-way calls all served to reinforce the prosecution's position that he couldn't be trusted to comply with bail conditions. The court particularly focused on Combs' attempts to maintain outside communications despite restrictions, viewing these actions as evidence of his unwillingness to submit to authority even under the strictest supervision. This pattern of behavior proved crucial in the judge's determination that no set of conditions could adequately ensure community safety. The prosecution's success in distinguishing Combs' case from similar high-profile cases proved crucial, particularly in comparison to the Mike Jeffries case. While Jeffries, facing similar sex trafficking charges, secured release on a $10 million bond, several key factors differentiated the cases. The court noted that while government concerns about Jeffries primarily centered on flight risk, Combs' case presented more complex dangers. The prosecution highlighted that Combs' alleged criminal conduct involved violence and RICO allegations absent from the Jeffries case. Additionally, Jeffries' alleged obstructive behavior had ended nearly a decade ago, contrasting sharply with Combs' ongoing alleged interference with the judicial process. The prosecution's evidence of Combs' alleged violence, particularly the 2016 video published by CNN showing the reported hotel hallway incident with Cassandra Ventura, provided tangible proof that supported their arguments about community safety. The corresponding text messages documenting injuries further strengthened their position. Most significantly, Combs' alleged attempts to contact a grand jury witness, even after their testimony in July 2024, demonstrated what prosecutors characterized as an ongoing pattern of potential witness tampering. The prosecution successfully argued that this behavior, occurring while Combs was already under investigation, indicated a concerning disregard for legal boundaries. The judge's concern about the discrepancy in the legal pad incident further undermined the defense's credibility. When confronted about the absence of legal markings and photographs of materials from Combs' cell, despite earlier assertions that all pads were clearly marked, the defense's inability to provide a clear explanation appeared to influence the court's overall assessment of their reliability. The immediate consequence of Judge Subramaniam's ruling means Combs will remain in the Metropolitan Detention Center with his legal options significantly narrowed. The only path forward appears to be through the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, a process his legal team had previously initiated but paused to pursue this latest bail attempt with Judge Subramaniam. The prosecution's position on Combs' violations of Bureau of Prisons regulations leaves open the possibility of additional charges. While the government acknowledged they are continuing to present evidence to a grand jury in New York, any evidence of obstruction could either lead to new charges or serve as additional evidence supporting the existing racketeering charge. Should Combs eventually secure release through appeal and subsequently violate any bail conditions, the prosecution maintained their ability to file additional charges. The current ruling, arriving on Thanksgiving Eve, ensures Combs will spend the holiday season behind bars, marking a dramatic contrast to his previous lifestyle. The case has broader implications for how courts handle high-profile defendants with substantial resources. The rejection of an unprecedented $50 million bail package, along with extensive monitoring provisions, suggests that financial resources alone may not overcome concerns about community safety and witness tampering. The detailed scrutiny of Combs' behavior while in detention, particularly his unauthorized communications and attempts to circumvent prison regulations, played a crucial role in the judge's decision. This aspect of the ruling sends a clear message about the importance of compliance with institutional rules, even for defendants of considerable means and influence. If you've been captivated by this deep dive into the Sean Diddy Combs case, don't forget to like and subscribe to True Crime Stories Archive for more comprehensive coverage of high-profile criminal cases. We'll continue following this case as it develops, bringing you the latest updates and expert analysis. What do you think about this case? Do you believe the judge made the right decision in denying bail for the third time? Share your thoughts in the comments below, but remember to keep the discussion respectful and within community guidelines. Want to explore more cases involving powerful figures in the entertainment industry? Hit that notification bell to ensure you never miss our upcoming releases. Until next time, stay informed and stay safe.